Good thing we had an entire weekend to clear away the stench that remained from Friday's lineup, but it was a great week overall. Unfortunately, we are welcomed back from the weekend with a terrible pitching slate and a heat wave that is sweeping the country. You're watching The Perfect Lineup, where Josh Engleman and myself, Dave Loughran, try and build the best lineup, take down a tournament each and every day, and of course make it better than it was on Friday and try and replicate what we did almost all of last week. It's two pitchers, a stack, and let the single lineup sims do the rest of the work. As always, if you love this content or you think it's helped you along the way, hit that thumbs up, subscribe. It's 100% free. And if you want to get a free week of MLB sims, all you got to do is leave a comment down below with who you think will be the highest scoring stack tonight, and you have a lot to choose from. As always, if you want to bypass the line, you see the leaderboards, all the Stokastic avatars up there, you say, I'd like a taste of that. Use the promo code PERFECT, and your first week of MLB Core Sims is 50% off. Let's do it. All right, so I'm going to mention later on in this video that I want to give Josh a little bit of autonomy to make some decisions because he's the one that has to make the stack. He's the one that has to build this lineup out. I'm going to give you two pitchers I like, but also some other options. This is not a cop-out. This is one of those slates where it may simply be, hey, we want to pay up for pitchers. And I think Josh will have a little bit better insight into that when he uses the single lineup sim at the end. So stick around to find out what we end up with. But listen, I want to capitalize right now on the Mets being in a complete free fall. And this is kind of going with the sims against the sims. I got 15% Schwellenbach, so it's not like they're overweight or underweight. I guess underweight, but not to a crazy extent. We're not fading him. Like the type of swings that happen in a 162 game season, this just happens with the Mets, with my Philadelphia Phillies, with any team. But on what I'd consider a pretty weak pitching slate, why not take a shot on Schwellenbach? He's an absolute workhorse. He's gone 6+ innings in 11 of 13 starts this year. Coming off a complete game just a week and a half ago, he's gone 7+ frames in 7 of 13 starts. He's good. And, it's pretty good hitting weather at Citi Field today, but it's actually more mild than most parks out there, especially the ones where you actually have an interest in playing some of the pitchers. On a night where you have a real lack of quality pitching, insanely hot temperatures, I'll happily roll with someone that can just eat up innings and has only walked 4% of the batters he's faced this year. 24% K rate. We can live with that for someone that can go deep into games. Now, the obvious pivot off of Schwellenbach here is Bryan Woo in Minnesota. And honestly, these guys look really similar, nearly identical, right? Neither have elite strikeout stuff, but both of them really eat up innings. Actually, Woo doesn't have a single start this year where he's gone fewer than 6 innings. Weather's pretty mild in Minnesota outside of some winds blowing out to center at 8 miles per hour. We'll go with Schwellenbach here, but I think Woo is perfectly reasonable, and we were getting a similar amount when I ran the sims this morning.
For most of last week, we needed to spin the wheel to find out who was going to get the free week of the MLB sims, but we don't have to do that based on Friday. We only had one person get it right. At Amaya's World of Fun 27, you were the only person to take the Milwaukee Brewers, which means you win a week of MLB Sims. Email support@stokastic.com to get it set up.
All right, so the SP2 spot is going to get wild. This is where I want to let Josh make some decisions on his own, but I'll give you a guy who I think we could actually plug in as the SP2, or if Josh wants to eschew Schwellenbach or Bryan Woo and go with this guy at a mid 8K price point at SP1 and then pay down even further at SP2. I'll give you a few names in a minute. I think that's viable. So on any other slate, Chad Patrick would be overpriced. But I think this is someone you probably get to by default tonight. Second lowest total on the slate of any team is the Pittsburgh Pirates. Patrick's been very good at home this year. Now, you could go with a guy like Eduardo Rodriguez. He's cheaper, but he's a fly ball pitcher. It's going to be 92 degrees. Miles per hour would be wild. 92 degrees in Chicago today. That scares me a bit. Patrick walked 23% K rate. He's limiting power to hitters from both sides of the plate, particularly the lefties, but 170 ISO to righties isn't bad. Healthy minus 191 money line favorite at home. So look, this is objectively true. This is not an opinion. You're going to have to make some very uncomfortable decisions at pitcher today. It's just the nature of the slate. So if you wanted to pay down for somebody like Erod or even Steven Kolek, The lowest total of any team is the Nats at 3.9 in San Diego, or Bailey Ober on the other side of the Brian Wu game against Seattle. I'm all about it. Even if you wanted to swap out Schwellenbach and use Patrick as our SP1, I'm cool. So let's see where Josh wants to go with this. Those are my two, but those are also an assortment of other guys that I think on a gross pitching slate, there's no real definitive advantage anywhere. Maybe the move is we pay up for our stacks and let the rest of pitching just happen and chips fall where they may.
There were a couple options I saw to take advantage of on this clearly heavily offensive oriented day, but the team that I'm going to just traded away their best player. Give me the Boston Red Sox. Now they're grading out perfectly in our top stack tool. Second in top stack, second in top value, the #1 stack score, but only third in ownership. So we're seeing at least a little bit of wiggle room. And I really like the matchup. Kokanowitz is not a great pitcher. He can't strike anybody out. 12% K rate to lefties, 16% K rate to righties. If you take that all the way back to the beginning of 2024, he just doesn't really have any stuff. 202x ISO to lefties in that time. That's a lot of power. Now he does limit power to righties, but he is giving it up to lefties. Average park factor here for the Angels for lefty power, 8th highest against righties, so maybe that'll help to offset it a little bit for the Red Sox. The active roster for Boston, however, hasn't been awesome. That's not that surprising. They took out a really good bat from that lineup, but they haven't been amazing on the road. They haven't really been amazing against right-handed pitchers, but they're still showing power in both of those situations. They're still a league average ISO team against righties and on the road. So while the overall success hasn't been great, I think they can make some pretty big strides if they can go deep. And they do have the lefty bats to do that. Loughran and Abreu both look awesome in this spot. Marcelo Mayer has a MPE, and you're getting another lefty bat, reasonable price tag as well. I want to slot those three guys in for sure, but if we just circle it all the way back to the top stacks tool, this is the team that grades out the best. And now the only thing we have left to do is build out this lineup using the Stokastic single lineup simulator. I've already pre-populated Chad Patrick, Spencer Schwellenbach. We went to Narvaez at catcher. I like including my catcher in the stacks when I can. We're going Marcelo Mayer at third. We're going Trevor Story at short. Loughran and Abreu both in the outfield spots. That gives us our Boston 5-man stack. And now we could let the tools do the work. I will click complete this lineup. At that point, it will fill out with the most optimal way we can do it. In this case, Donovan Solano, Brendan Donovan. That's very interesting. Donovan. I didn't really see that one coming. That's exciting. I want to keep that for the rest of the day. And noted slugger, Aaron Judge. $6,600, 30% owned Aaron Judge, but we are taking a pretty big haircut on ownership in some of these places, so I think it's going to look good. One way to find out, run lineup simulation. And that lineup's looking pretty good. 24% sim ROI, 0.2% chance of a win, 1.5% rate at that top 10% lineup range, and a 30% cash rate. Maybe you want to move those pitchers around, free up some additional salary, pay up for some additional bats. You can do all of it using the single lineup simulator. And once you make those changes, you're one button click away from getting the rest of the data.